What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 15 of Rebuilding Chelsea here in Football Manager 2017. And today we're going to be taking on Arsenal in a fairly big game, I guess, in the context of our Premier League season. It's a game that will very much define second or third. And I kind of say second or third with a bit of a scowl on my face, knowing the fact that we are close to Manchester United, but I just don't think we're close enough, unfortunately. So yeah, as you can see, looking at the league table, we are on 76 points. Below us, Arsenal have 74. Ahead of us, 5 points clear, United have 81 points. Now, unfortunately for us, Manchester United, obviously they've played the same amount of games as us. Even if we win our game, we need them to slip up twice. They've got easy games to end the season. I don't think it's our year, unfortunately, and it kind of pains me to say that. Of course, not the first time in this save where we've come second to Manchester United. If you were watching, or if you have watched the Spurs save that I started off FM17 with, of course, the year where Chelsea got relegated, you'll know that Spurs finished 5 points ahead of me on that occasion. And so, well, to be in a similar situation today, it's a little bit disappointing. So since the last episode, which was against Manchester United, you can see we've actually gone unbeaten. But unfortunately for us, it's just not been good enough. A draw against West Ham really compounded our misery. Just to blitz through these real quick, you can see we beat Everton 1-0. It was a good performance. Lallana with a first-minute goal, of course, the former Liverpool man against the blue Merseyside club. It was a good win, 1-0. Kyle Walker got injured, out for 2 to 3 months. A fairly big miss for us, really, with the broken ankle. Unfortunately, going to miss the rest of the season. The next game we had was against QPR. It was a little bit nervy, this game. It was 1-1 at half-time. Britt Belonga, our former man, had scored for them in the 6th minute. We pegged back through Lukaku. And, fortunately, in the second half, we really put the lamb to the slaughter, really. If QPR were a lamb, they were tasty, and it went quite well. We had some nice little lamb meat on a plate. We ate it up. We got the 3 points. We got the 4 goals. I don't know what we're talking about. And speaking of meat, West Ham was the next game. It all works together and all links together somehow. But no, we had West Ham in the next game, as you can see here. 2-2, the game finished. Twice we pegged them back from behind. Perhaps a little bit disappointing to slip up, particularly at home. Looking at the stats as a whole, you can see we were the better team. It's difficult to deny that. We actually had significantly more clear-cut chances as well. You can see here we had 4 clear-cut chances and 1 half chance. They didn't have a clear-cut chance. They had 2 half chances. They took them both. We only have ourselves to blame, but it was a disappointing game nevertheless. And, that was kind of the game where it slipped away. It slipped away at that point, I feel like, the title, unfortunately. Anyway, the last game and the most recent game we played was against Stoke. A 1-0 win. Lukaku with the goal. Did well to come out of this game with a win. It could have been more convincing, but unfortunately for us, it just really wasn't the case today. So anyway, going into today's game, we've got to do a little bit of team management because as you can see here, we've got Ross Barkley out injured with a thigh strain. Kyle Walker's out with a broken ankle. Christiansen is out with a suspension for 2 games. So we have actually got to mix things up a little bit here. I'm going to kind of, persevere with the Odegaard at centre, attacking mid with Lallana out on the left. I feel like that's kind of worked fairly well for us. I think for today's game, we're going to drop Marcus Rashford. He's not had the greatest few games. We're going to bring in Kelechi in his place. Elsewhere, Lukaku is playing fairly well, so we'll keep him up in the final third. Of course, with Walker being out injured, that does open up an opportunity for Iorfa to come into the side. The Nigerian, 23 years old, a good fullback, not really a great fullback. Of course, I feel like one of the issues we've got this season is our squad's fairly small. And to be honest, that served us quite nicely with us not having European football. But you can see how quickly, just by having a few injuries and a few suspensions, our squad does get depleted. And really, when you look across the team, the right back position to position where we might need a little bit more coverage. At centre-back, I'm fairly happy, to be honest. But no, there's a few positions, certainly. I think centre-mid, we probably need a new centre-mid. We need a right back. And it's something to look at, I think, for next year. In terms of our budgets for next year, which have been set because we did get Champions League football, you can see we've got £55 million in the bank. Our wage budget sits at £2.4 million. Not a massive change from this year, actually. Just a little bit of transfer news, I guess. One deal that has been sorted is this guy. I'm going to call him Jindrich. Sed Lashek. We'll just call him the Sed. In fact, let's just nickname him Sed. It's an easy name to say, but I like the name Sed. It's not even a name. Either way, he's a Czech Republic international. He's 18. He's only just turned 18 as well. You can see here, it was a week ago. I should have got him a birthday cake to celebrate him joining us. But yes, we've signed said. We have paid £5.5 million. It's a bargain. He's an absolutely insane player. Sparta Prague have let him go fairly cheap. As you can see, outstanding pace. Physicals are great. Good defensively. I'm not sure really if he's going to be best as a centre mid on defend for us, or whether or not we really want to make the most of the fact he's got 16 vision and 14 passing. Either way, fantastic player, young, but I actually think he might be ready to be kind of a backup player for us in that centre mid position with us having Europe next year. Kind of in the not too distant future. So he's an exciting little talent. But no, those are the changes there in terms of Iorfa coming in. We went on a bit of a tangent, but he comes in the centre mid position. Christiansen being out is a little bit of a pain. Partly wants to play Anoma, but he is lacking match fitness, but we're going to YOLO it. So we'll play Anoma and Hughes. And then I think Phil... Do I want to keep the rest the same? I could bring in Sessegnon for Nathan Ake, but Nathan Ake has played well when he's not been sent off. So actually, I think we'll stick with this as our team. So Rajkovic, Ake, Smalling, Zuma, Iorfa, Anoma, Hughes, Lallana, Odegaard, Kelechi and Lukaku. Nothing too crazy going on there really. A little bit of rotation in the areas where we don't have nailed-on players, namely the right-hand side where, of course, we've got the likes of Jordan Ibe, Walcott, Rashford as well, who can play there. And then, of course, a few other positions like centre mid. Anoma comes in with the Christiansen injury, or suspension rather. And, of course, Kyle Walker goes out and Iorfa has to come in because of the injury. So anyway, let's submit our team for today's game. We're taking on Arsenal. We're at home. A defeat here would see Arsenal leapfrog us and go 1 point clear with 2 games remaining. On the flip side, a win here would leave us 5 points ahead of Arsenal with 2 games remaining. And to be honest, I feel like at that point we'd be nailed on for a top 2 finish, which would be fantastic. Worth noting, this game is the earlier kickoff in the day, so we will play the game. We will then continue, see how the United result gets on. If United win, and we win this game, there's not going to be a whole lot left to play for with 2 games left. So what I will probably do is I will cut the end of the episode shorter, and I will skip forward to the end of the season. We'll have a look at the final stats, the Premier League season, at the end of this video. But of course, that's very much dependent on how things go here. If, United slip up and we get a win, maybe then it becomes a little bit interesting. But really, let's focus on this game as we are on the attack. Lukaku, well, he's got the goal for us, and we brought him in for goals this year. He's had a few injuries, a few long-term injuries as well, but that is his 23rd for the season. You really can't fault the Belgium. And, well, it's a great little way to start this game against our London rivals in Arsenal. It was some nice build-up play, but the finish, I'm actually surprised he managed to squeeze it in there, Lukaku. It was at the near post. But, well, we will certainly take that goal. And, well, 15 minutes gone, 1-0 up. You couldn't really ask for a better start in this game. Of course, we want to beat Arsenal here. It's worth noting, I guess, that second place does get an automatic spot, I believe, in the Champions League group stage, whereas third place would mean playing through a qualifier. I mean, granted, you'd expect us to win the qualifier, but at the same time, a win here would all but secure us that top 2 finish, which we crave, and it would be a great way to cap off our first season in the Premier League. So we've got off to the ideal start, and well, we have possession again here. Will Hughes lays it into Lallana, plays it across to Lukaku, dropping a little bit deeper, but now some options on ahead for the number 9. Martin Odegaard there, plays through Lukaku. Can he finish it? He lays it back to Martin Odegaard, and it's a lovely passing goal. It's his 15th goal of the season. 21 minutes gone, 2 real quality goals really have been the difference. Martin Odegaard here, little dink through. Lukaku latches onto a mistake. Lapore actually puts in a tackle. It falls to Martin Odegaard. He comes in, he marauders in on that left peg of his, smashes it home. Keeper perhaps should have done a little bit better, but it was well struck and diverted goalwards well. And, well, 2-0 up against Arsenal. We've done fairly well, I feel like, against the big teams this season. Of course, we did live comms against the likes of Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool earlier on in the year. And we won 3 out of those 4 games. United have kind of been the team who have... they're the team who have... I don't want to say they figured us out, but they are just better than the others. And we've not quite got enough quality to beat them yet. But other than that, we've done really well. You look at the defeats and the draws against teams like West Ham and Norwich. They are what has cost us the title, really, this year. I guess the 2 defeats against United are fairly hefty too, in terms of their significance. But we've done well against the likes of Arsenal. We've done well against the likes of Spurs. And, well, I don't want to speak too prematurely here, but we're on the attack again. Could we have 4? We can't. It's offside. But, well, 2-0 up at half-time. I'm talking as if we've won this game. Of course, we haven't won this game yet. But it kind of has the makings of a fairly familiar result, I guess, in terms of how we've played this year. It's weird this season, I guess, in hindsight, because we came into the season with the board wanting a top 5 finish. And to be honest, I thought that was fairly ambitious. But I took what they wanted on board. I went and bought the players that I felt like we needed. Players like Chris Smalling, players like Walker, players like Lukaku, who definitely have made a difference. There's a few players like Barkley who haven't had quite so much of an impact. But it's hard to deny that really it's clicked for us well this year. We don't have, in my opinion at least, the second best squad in the Premier League. But what we do have is some good cohesion, players who turn up big for the big games, and quality in front of goal as Lallana scores to make it 3-0 here after just 48 minutes. But yeah, it's been a weird season because, as I said, like the aim was top 5, and I kind of just signed players that I thought could achieve that, and they've really kicked on this season. Players like Odegaard stepping up to the plate is obviously a massive, massive surprise in some ways. He's a quality player, but after a great season in the Championship, there's always a big question mark over kind of, can he do it now in the Premier League? Well, the answer has been a resounding yes. It's certainly based off this season. In terms of the summer, I guess I can use this episode now just to talk a bit about the future, assuming that there isn't going to be another episode and United aren't going to slip up. But in terms of the summer, obviously I've spent £5 million to bring in Said. Looking beyond that, really it's going to be about trying to build a squad ready for Europe. A few players I feel like in every kind of department really are needed just to add a bit of depth to the side, something that we perhaps have lacked a little bit. So that's where I see the budget going. There's players like Raheem Sterling, who I looked at last summer. I'm still looking at him. City want more than £30 million. I don't really feel comfortable spending more than half our budget on a player like Raheem Sterling, who hasn't played regular first-team football in a few years. I feel like City are probably only keeping hold of him because of the homegrown player rule. In terms of what we are going to do in the transfer window, obviously £55 million, a lot of money to spend. I don't have plans to sell any players, but if a bid of, say, £60 million was to come in for someone like Musonda, someone who isn't a nailed-on first-team player, I feel like it would be impossible for me not to consider it, just because it would offer and open up, an opportunity to maybe just strengthen the squad in areas that I can't otherwise. As well, it's 4-0. This has been a great performance. Can I just say that now? It's a shame that we couldn't put in these kind of performances against United last episode and against the likes of West Ham where we drew. But no, lovely passing goal. Kelechi involved, Odegaard, Lukaku on the overlap. And that was a really nice composed finish. Squeezed it into the near post. Keeper perhaps should have done a little bit better. But well, 60 minutes gone here. We are just showing a whole other level of class, really. It's been surprising, this game. I thought this game was going to be one we go into. It's going to be a little bit tense. Of course, the fact we've already qualified for the Champions League next year, finishing top 4, means this game doesn't have quite so much significance as it otherwise might. But at the same time, I thought it was going to be a tricky game. And, well, it still could be tricky because Zuma's decided he wants to give Higuain a penalty to take. So, well, Arsenal with a chance perhaps back into this game with half an hour left. I don't want to discount them early and kind of disregard them because I did that once when I was 3-0 up against Manchester United. Granted, that was a game over 2 legs. But I don't feel like we can afford to do it. Higuain steps up. He is injured. Can Rajkovic stop it? He can't. It was a very good penalty, actually, in the end. And it's his 31st goal of the season. Not a bad tally, I guess, for Higuain. But no, obviously, with the transfer budget we've got, I can't go out and sign an £80 million player who's 30 years old like Higuain. It's very much going to be about, I think, looking for bargains. There might be a little bit of wheeling and dealing done in the transfer window in terms of making some profit off players we brought in last year who perhaps didn't quite set the world alight as I perhaps imagined they might. I'm looking at the likes of Ross Barkley perhaps there. There's a few other players who, I don't know, I would be willing to sell if a decent offer came in. I feel like one thing that is always a factor in Football Manager is that very often, if a player has a good season for you, you can sell them on and find a player who's of similar quality, perhaps didn't have quite so good a season, might be a little bit younger, might be a player you need to develop a little bit more to get him to the level of the player you're replacing. But at the same time, it's very possible to replace most players, I feel like, in Football Manager. There's a few players, certainly within our team, I think it'd be difficult to replace the likes of Zuma, Smalling, Odegaard, really, Lukaku. But despite that, I am open, of course, to the idea of selling any player. I don't feel like there's players you just don't have a price I can sell them at. Obviously, for someone like Odegaard, it's going to be like £150 million, and I don't think teams are going to pay that. But I feel like every single team has their limit, and you've got to be willing to move on players if it, allows you to have a little bit more freedom to move, perhaps strengthen the club more long term, perhaps bring in a few more options, particularly with us wanting to increase the size of the squad this year. It's something we may have to look to do. Either way, 4-1 it finishes. A little bit of a down note, I guess, to lose the clean sheet. As you can see, 5 points clear of Arsenal now. We're way clear of Liverpool in 4th. Manchester United in 1st, just 2 points ahead of us. But they have played a game less, so they're going to play their game now. As I said, if they lose, I'll probably be back for the game against Watford to end the season. If they win, I'm just going to cut to the end of the season now. We'll see kind of how we ended up finishing, have a look at our team stats, just get a general overview, I guess, for how this season's panned out with all the final stats. I mean, I guess there's an argument to say I could do it now, but I don't want to do it too prematurely. And of course, it's interesting, I guess, to just look at it when the league's all wrapped up and see exactly which players played well. So Manchester United draw 0-0 actually against Southampton in 7th. It's an okay result. Unfortunately, goal difference does leave us in a bit of a predicament where it's unlikely. So what I'm going to do is I will probably play the Tottenham Hotspur game. If we're still kind of neck and neck with United, maybe then I'll be back for an end of season live come next episode. But if not, well, this video is going to have like another 5 minutes to it and we'll have a look at the end of the season. So anyway, if this is the end of the episode, thank you for watching. If you look at the time now and there's loads of time left, stick around. We're going to look at the team to end the season. Thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, Future Jack, take it away or, well, goodbye. Okay, guys, so we are back here for the end of season. Yes, the season ended with not a lot happening, and we're back. So just a quick look here. You can see our fixtures. To end the season, I don't really want to show these. We lost twice. We lost 6-1 against Tottenham. I'm not going to answer what went wrong, but everything did. It was a bit of a freak game, if I'm honest. But away from home against our London rivals, it's not very good. But off the back of the Arsenal game, I felt pretty confident about that game. Unfortunately, just wasn't really to be. In the last game of the season we played against Watford, we lost 2-1 at home. Again, disappointing. However, somewhat fortuitously, I guess you could say, Arsenal bottled it too. So we actually still finished top of the table, or second in the table, where we expected to finish. You can see here, looking at Arsenal's last few games, they lost against Bournemouth and drew against Norwich. So yeah, lit off the hook a little bit, but second place is where we ended up. In terms of the team, obviously a great little season. You can see here Martin Odegaard won Footballer of the Year in the Premier League. He also won Players Player of the Year. Martial got top goal scorer. Lukaku came second in that with 25 goals, which I think is nothing to be scoffed at. Odegaard also won Players Young Player. And if you look at the Team of the Year here, you can see Kurt Zouma, Odegaard and Lukaku amongst the Premier League select. So pretty good by them, if you ask me. Zouma, of course, 24, had a very good season, the centre-back. You will notice, ladies and gentlemen, I have a new skin. I do. More on that towards the end of the video. There's a few things I want to talk about, but no, we have a new skin. It's lovely, and I think you'll mostly agree that it looks significantly better in terms of showing all the information that you could possibly want on a single screen. So yeah, Kurt Zouma there, Martin Odegaard, who we already talked about, Lukaku, of course, banging in the goals for us this year. So this season as a whole, pretty good, pretty good. I mean, the season expectations, the press expected us to finish 6th. Of course, we were newly promoted. The board wanted a top 5 finish. So to get second, I am absolutely delighted about. I do feel like we have overachieved. I think next season is going to be actually tougher than this year. But all in all, really can't complain about our team. You can see, looking at the average ratings in the Premier League, the 3 highest average rated players all play for us. So anyway, looking at the goal scorers, Lukaku leading the way with 25 goals for the year, but Martin Odegaard and Rashford chipping in. Rashford here, as you can see, with 13 in the league, 3 in the FA Cup too. Of course, the young English striker, a very good player for us. Not so much played as a striker really this year, more often than not out in the wide areas. But the number 7 been a very, very good player for us over the course of the season. Theo Walcott chipped in with a fair share of goals as well with 5, but really it was down to Lukaku, Rashford and Odegaard to make the difference for us. In terms of assists, again, Martin Odegaard, the man we relied on just a lot. He made a big difference for us though, the Norwegian this year. And, well, he swept pretty much every single player award he could, and deservedly so. You know, he scored 15 goals, 21 assists in a year. That's more than kind of a contribution towards a goal every game, and he's only 20 years old. He's only going to get better. Other players who performed well, Lallana got 9 assists in the Premier League, which is definitely nothing to be scoffed at. Of course, joined us on a free this year, and while Liverpool perhaps going to be kicking themselves for letting him go, other players who played well, Sessegnon got 6 assists in the Premier League. Not an outstanding total, really. But you can see as we look down the team here, it really was spread out. And yeah, there was a big variety, I guess, in terms of the players who were winning the assists for us and winning the games with their important goals. It was kind of interesting in that regard. There's a few standout performers, but really you look across the board and there's a lot of players with 3 or 4 goals scored this season, as well as the few standout performers. In terms of average ratings, I already talked about the 3 leading the way. Chris Smalling has had a very good year. Of course, joined us for a measly fee, really, in hindsight, of £17.5 million. Played all but 2 Premier League games, a 7.33 average rating for him. And, well, going forward, I'm very excited about our chances. I feel like our squad is a team that, as you can see here, has a lot of potential, particularly in the first team. There's a lot of players playing regular first team football who I definitely think can flourish over the next few seasons. Financially, we're in a very good situation now. We are going to fail financial fair play, but that will only be a fine, as it's the wage regulations which we've exceeded. And you can see here in terms of the wage budget and transfer budget for next year, there's a fair bit of money to bring in some players, which is really, really exciting. So anyway, as I said, I do have a brand new skin. I am going to be working on it a little bit more. It was made by Blues Till I Die Tom. He's a really kind of loyal guy. He's been subbed to my channel, I know, for a few years now. He offered to help me out on this skin. I hope you guys agree it looks fantastic. And yeah, there'll be a public release in the not too distant future. There is just a little bit of testing that has to be done on it. Now, the next point I had to make, this is quite a big one for this save. There's going to be a straw poll at the top of the description. I'd really appreciate it, particularly if you've watched until this point, because it means that you are enjoying this series, that you go and vote in it. I've got a bit of a dilemma, and the dilemma I've got is that this is the end of my 3rd season of my kind of beta save here in Football Manager 2017. I've already stated on Twitter my long-term kind of save for the year is going to be with Hereford down in the 8th tier of English football. Now, the dilemma I've got is, would you like to see one last season with Chelsea, or should I get straight into Hereford and perhaps revisit this save at a later date? Now, I understand that with this being the rebuilding save, I feel like we've kind of rebuilt Chelsea to an extent in getting to 2nd in the Premier League this year. I feel like a title challenge is a few seasons off, if I'm honest. But at the same time, I feel like we have successfully rebuilt. It's been fun to kind of learn the game, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the transformation. But no, I want to know, would you like to see another season, or should I go and start my long-term save for the year? Because this was only ever meant to be a beta save. I feel like if I do abandon this save at this point, it won't necessarily be abandoned forever. I feel like we might do the odd episode here and there every few weeks as I just play through it at my own speed. Perhaps I'll stream it in the not-too-distant future. As I said, for you guys who have watched until this point, clearly you're enjoying this series and your opinion really does matter to me. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you took a look at the straw poll and casted your vote. But yeah, that's everything from me, guys. I'd like to say again, thank you for watching this series. If this is the last episode ever, I hope it's not. I really want to keep this going, you know, perhaps over a longer term period where just every few weeks we have the odd episode here and there. Maybe I try and get out an episode every kind of certain day of the week or whatever. But yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for watching this season, guys. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. If you have enjoyed, as always, smash the like button. Be sure to let me know what you make of the Hereford save down below if you just want to vote, and then leave a comment. You can't leave comments on Straw Poll, so express your opinions, you know, down below. And yeah, other than that, thank you for watching. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.